Welcome to the show, folks. This is Wrestling Changed My Life. Here we go.
Like I said, I don't think there could have been a better podcast for me to be on to tell my story because like wrestling was the turning point in my life. And I don't usually do podcasts, but I saw this one. I was like, I gotta talk to this guy.
We can endure anything and adapt and pivot and change. Wrestling gave us that ability.
I would say nothing in life has impacted me more than the things wrestling has taught me in terms of self-reflection, resilience.
Toughness. Some guys have it, some guys don't.
Adversity, 100%. How to pick myself up and be a man after I failed.
And everything that has shaped my life and where I'm at today would not be there without the values and basically the lessons I've learned through the sport of wrestling.
For me, wrestling saved my life because it allowed me to focus and channel my energy.
We're fortunate if you wrestled, because if you wrestled, natural talent helps, but it's 5% of the ingredient. It pales in comparison to heart and technique and effort.
It humbled me, taught me humility. Nothing can humble you more than wrestling. I think it's the learning to adapt, right? You learn how to adapt, you learn how to solve problems.
You know, if I look back at my time I spent wrestling, if it gave me one thing more than anything else, it's mental toughness.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the one and only Wrestling Changed My Life. This is your host, Ryan Warner. My guest today is Anthony Constantino. He's the co-founder of Sticker Mule, which he has grown from scratch over the past 10 years to one of the world's best brands. They work with Nike, Netflix, Facebook, Twitter, doing stickers and magnets. And actually, listeners of this episode will get a free Wrestling Changed My Life sticker if you tweet the episode and tag Sticker Mule, as well as myself if you want Ryan_N_Warner. Bottom line, tweet the episode, tag Sticker Mule, and they will send you a free Wrestling Changed My Life sticker on the house. I think that's what free means. Fan of the week goes to Tom Rusk. Tom is the assistant coach at my alma mater, Geneseo High School, and since I'm down at the Illinois State Tournament today recording this intro, I thought it was only fitting since Tommy and I put back a few soda pops last night. If you just can't get enough of the podcast outside of these episodes, go to our website, WrestlingChangeMyLife.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Wrestling Changed My Life, as well as Twitter, Ryan_N_Warner. That's it, folks. Let's get to the episode with Anthony Constantino. But please don't forget, free Wrestling Changed My Life sticker coming your way if you tag Sticker Mule and share this episode on Twitter. Peace! Ladies and gentlemen, we're here with Sticker Mule co-founder Anthony Constantino. How are you, sir?
Great to be here, Ryan.
Really appreciate you coming on the show, man. We were just talking beforehand. Yeah, you obviously had a beginning in wrestling, and that shaped and molded your life, and now you're running one of the top internet companies, Sticker Mule. And so would love to just kind of start with your origin story. Where'd you grow up, and what kind of kid were you?
Yeah, so I'm from a small town upstate New York called Amsterdam, and when I actually saw you through Twitter, you shouted us out, and the tweet went sort of viral because you were excited about the stickers, and I saw the name of the podcast is Wrestling Changed My Life, and I thought like right away, I was like, wow, this like you couldn't have put it better, how wrestling did change my life and change the life of so many people. And right away I asked somebody to reach out to you, and that's why I'm here. But I thought about it, and I've always told people wrestling was a turning point in my life, because anyone that knew me pre-wrestling, my friends that still tease me, I was I guess an average kid. I was below average in athletics. I mean, I was the kid that never got picked to be on anyone's team. I mean, they didn't even want me on the dodgeball team. My mom made me play Little League, and, they stuck me in the outfield if I even got to play. I played basketball for a few years, and I don't think I ever made a basket. I had no athletic ability, whatever, and I had no academic ability either as a young kid. I had C's and C's in most of my classes, and I wasn't a bad kid. I didn't get into trouble or nothing, but there just wasn't a lot to be excited about with me. And as I got towards high school, I think my mom started getting nervous about the situation, because she saw, I wasn't doing nothing bad, but I wasn't going anywhere. She got nervous, and I think she did what a lot of nervous parents do. They say, geez, I got to put my kid in private school and hope that fixes the situation. So she stuck me in a private school, and I remember being terrified because the thing that was told to me was I was going to be forced to play 3 sports. And I remember talking to my friends and saying, this is going to be terrible. Like I got to do sports, and I can't do anything. I can't hit a baseball. I can't shoot a basketball. I can't even play mini golf very well. So I got there, and right away I'm like, well, you got to hunt for the easy sports. So I hunted for hunted. I went, right away. All right, well, cross country, that sounds easy. You're supposed to go running every day. I joined the team. We're supposed to go on 3-mile runs every day, but instead I went on 3-mile long walks. And went as slow as I could go. And I ended up making friends with one of the kids on the team, and his name was Chris Russo, and he said, look, you should join the wrestling team next. That's the next thing you should do. And I said, well, why is that? And he said, well, wrestling's easy too. All we do is play mat ball all day. We got this great coach, and we just screw off all day, and it's a lot of fun. So I was like, all right, I don't even know what mat ball is, but I guess I can do that. So I signed up to do wrestling. And the day I started, I found out this like amazing coach that let us play mat ball all day had left, and we got a new coach. And yeah, and I didn't know what I was in for, but we had a huge team to start because people loved it. It was like the sport everyone went to escape doing anything difficult. And we had about 40 kids on the team, and the new coach had a different attitude. He was, a lot of wrestling coaches are difficult, and I had a number of wrestling coaches, a number of coaches after this. I would say he was on the high end of the spectrum of challenging. And so I went from running 3 miles a day and walking 3 miles a day in cross country to having a wrestling coach that all of a sudden did 5-mile runs for warm-ups. And we did all sorts of crazy stuff, and it was brutal. The team, I said, started at 40, we dropped to 10, and I had what was probably the worst opening season of like any wrestler in history. I went out my first match and I got pinned in 9 seconds, and I ended up, my first year of wrestling, I ended up never making it out of the first period. I don't even think I made it past the minute mark. I just went out and it was instant pin every time, and I don't know what happened. Like I said, my coach was I don't know. I don't know. I like, he was an inspirational guy to me, but I mean, to a lot of people, he was a bit on the overly difficult side. But even though I was losing and losing and losing, and it was terrible, there was something about the experience of seeing everyone quit the team and not want to stick with it that inspired me, and made me for the first time think to myself, maybe here's something to be proud about, even if I'm losing every match in the worst way possible. Maybe this is something to be proud about that. And he kind of instilled that in us. And a few of us stuck together and said, look, this team started with 40 kids and we're down to like 12, which wasn't the best thing in the world for the program. But, those of us that stuck around were proud that we got through it and survived. So, that was the beginning of my wrestling experience. I was a terrible wrestler, but I survived. And the next year I continued to be a terrible wrestler. I remember midway through my second season, making it out of the first period finally, and being so surprised to go to the coin toss and whatever. When the ref blew the whistle, I just freaked out and instantly got pinned. And then I don't think it was till the end of my sophomore year that I finally won a match or two. And then my junior year, I got a handful of wins. I still was a terrible wrestler. But luckily, I got a new coach. We got a new coach that took a different approach, and the first one was very difficult, athletically and physically demanding. And the second one was a more motivational guy and taught us to believe in ourselves. And you get coaches to like just be tough. And this new one said, look, he taught us to believe in ourselves and teach us believe that we could do anything. And one of the things he said, I want you to visualize where you're going to be at the end of every season and put it down. And I remember going into my senior year, I had accomplished nothing in wrestling. No one thought anything of me. And he said, I want you to put down where you're going to see yourself at the end of the year. And I don't know why, but I put down that I was going to take second in the section, which, if you know, I mean, every state's different and the rules have changed now. But back then in New York State, you had to win the section to advance to states. And there was only one section. Now they split the section to small school sectionals, big school sectionals. But we were all grouped together. So, I said I was going to do this. I put it down. I think it was only between, me and him. And it seemed like the craziest thing in the world because I was probably one of the worst performing athletes on the team. And in my high school's history, I mean, there's a lot of people that in other schools that do better. But in the history of my high school, only one kid had made it to the sectional finals. And so for me to think I was going to do that was crazy. And, it ended up happening.
Let alone, so no one had even made it to state, let alone the sectional finals in your school.
No, from my high school, only one person prior to me had made it to the sectional finals, and I ended up being the second person in my high school's history to make it to the sectional finals after having what was probably the worst record of any wrestler ever, and that was really.
What was the turning point there? So I mean, you've been working hard for 3 years. You're physically getting fit. You're mentally getting tougher, so to speak. But what happened between that junior and senior year with that coach, and what were some of the big changes that you look back on?
He taught me to believe in myself, and that like if you look at wrestling now and you look at high school wrestlers, like a lot of times they're losing, 8 to 6 matches, 7 to 4 matches, and the difference in 3 points at the high school level really is like a lot of it is belief in yourself, and it's unbelievable. Like. The difference it is. But the one thing I remember telling myself, well, there's 2 things that I did, but the one thing I ended up telling myself was, I looked at these kids that were winning. There was kids, there's people that win states as freshmen.
Yep.
Probably people that win states as 8th graders. And I said to myself, look, I'm 17 years. I was actually young for my, so I was 16. I turned 17 midway through my senior year, and I remember I said, look, these kids can win states as a 13-year-old. Like when you're 12, look, I don't care how good you are. When you're 12 years old, you still haven't hit puberty yet. You're not fully developed. Your mind's not fully developed. You're still a 12-year-old.
Right.
And if you can go from being a 12-year-old kid that's really a kid, I don't care if you've been wrestling your whole life, you're still a kid, and then go out and win states. I said, what does it matter if I've lost horribly every other year? What does it matter? Like if a 13-year-old can win states as a 16-year-old or 17-year-old, I can take second in a section, even if it's never been done before in my school. So, I told myself that, and that inspired me. And then I just started thinking about like the sport of wrestling in general, and like what I noticed in wrestling that stuck with me to this day is, a lot of kids, they just chase the record. There's a lot of kids, their goal. They're so proud to say they're a captain of their team. Mm-hmm. And nothing wrong with that. But some people in wrestling are so proud to say they're captain of their team. And some kids are just so proud to win the whatever, I don't know, the leagues or whatever you call it. And there's varying degrees of success and how people view success in wrestling. And some people say I got to win the regional. Some people say I got to win state. Some people say I got to win national. Some people say I got to go to the Olympics one day. And depending upon how you think of the sport, or what you think your metric for success is, like you approach the sport, differently. So once I said to myself, I wanted to be in the sectional finals, I just thought the sport differently. And I remember looking at there was a kid from my area, Matt Harrington. I believe he'd gone to states 4 times. He's one of the best wrestlers in the area, and he did an interview. And he talked about his training program to achieve what he had achieved. And he talked about, I woke up every morning, I ran 5 miles, and I went to practice. And then after practice, I did more stuff. And what it occurred to me was, up until that point, I think a lot of high school wrestlers believe that wrestling ability is sort of like an intrinsic gift. The kids that are amazing, it's just because they're amazing. That's all it really is. And when I read this article, I said, everyone worshiped this kid as like a god of wrestling at that time. And it wasn't that he was God. He was training harder than anyone. Mm-hmm. And so that's what it was. So I said, look, if I want to get better at wrestling, I got to train like this guy. I can't. Why would I suddenly become good just sitting here and hoping for it to happen? Like this kid that everyone thinks is a superstar and everyone views as having these godlike abilities. He's not God. He's waking up every morning and running 5 miles, and he had a mentality that of winning and you needed that. You needed that mentality.
How much of wrestling do you think is mental versus physical at that level, and how much was it for you?
I mean, it's unbelievable because when I first started wrestling, I was this scrawny kid, and I said I lost a lot, and the team captain was this big, tough guy, football player, and he was a 215-pounder, and he just had a reputation for being tough and scary, and everyone said to me, just to cheer me up one day, he said, Constantino, wrestling's 90% mental, and I was like, this guy's just saying nonsense, and by the end you realize that it really is. Like, at that level, right. At the high school level, it's unbelievably mental. Probably once you get beyond that, like, other things come into play. But at the high school level, kids don't realize the extent to which it's it's all in your head. And there was a breaking point in my season where, you do drills and practice and stuff like that. And I remember just saying to myself, like, prior, I had to, you play this game with your friends where you're like, all right, I'll let you win 1 and I win 1, and you screw around. And then there was a certain point I was like, I'm gonna win every drill in practice. I'm gonna give my all every moment of practice. I'm not gonna hold back at any time. And I think once I took that attitude on, you know, I was like, oh, this is what it means to actually like wrestle. You don't go in and just play around. Like you take every minute seriously because you're there for 3 hours, and you know, you take every minute seriously. And once I got that attitude, you know, everything just kind of changed.
Was that the first time in your life where you really went all in on anything, regardless of school, sport? You know,
yeah, it was the first thing I ever succeeded at in life. I mean, and the funny thing is, you know, looking back, I did, you know, I mean, I met my goal because I said, you know, second in the section, and I don't know why. In retrospect, you know, why second, but you know, for me, it was so unbelievable to be second. I was happy with that, and then it was so unbelievable that you know, I didn't even think of going to college for wrestling. So I had already applied to colleges, and I had already got into college before my season even ended, just for academics. And you know, I ended up going. You know, my season ended, and wrestling ended for me, and I ended up going to college and out near Boston. I went to a small school out there because I didn't have great grades, and I couldn't get in anywhere impressive. And I started there, and people said, you know, you should think about wrestling still. And so I kept training at that point. And I remember there was a kid that had a reputation for being, you know, one of the top brains in the school, or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, he said, Constantino, you're just a dumb jock. You're, you know, like that line, like, you're just a dumb jock. You're never going to amount to anything. You know, I was training, running, going to the gym. And I said to myself, like, when he said that, I said, you know, this is annoying, and it's ridiculous, because I figured out how to go from a terrible wrestler to meeting my goals in a short amount of time. Like, why don't I just figure out the keys to becoming a good student? So he said that to me early in my first year of college, and I decided to use what I did in wrestling to figure out how to conquer academics. And I ended up getting, I don't know, 3.8 or a 4.0 my first year of college, and saying, like, this isn't, you know, I'm gonna get the hell out of here and go someplace better. So I applied to school for wrestling, and I applied to wrestling programs, and I applied to RPI, which was like a top academic school. Mm-hmm. And I got into both, and I remember having a conversation with my friend, and he said to me, you know, you're gonna have to make, you know, you can't wrestle forever, but, like, you know, academics is gonna be forever. And he said you should probably go the route of academics. And at the same time, I had a girlfriend in the area, so
there
I don't
you
know
go.
if I'm because of the route of academics or because of the girlfriend. Probably more the girlfriend than anything else. But you know, I ended up from there going to RPI and having and become, you know, leaving athletics completely. You know, I stopped in the gym and I embraced academics, you know, entirely.
So your whole
life.
I
took a lot of lessons of wrestling, you know, along with me.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. Is like your whole life in terms of your purpose and what you believe you are capable of change because of 4 years in high school. That's pretty incredible. You know.
Yeah, I mean, really one, because like that end year where things change so quickly, and like from that I learned that you can master anything quickly. I mean, that was like the interesting lesson for me. That was like, wow, I went from terrible to good quickly. And so whatever obstacle gets put in front of me, and I was like, well, why can't I go from terrible to good at this as well quickly? I mean, I figured it out in wrestling, and I learned there's certain tricks to doing it. Like the most important trick is learn from the best. So, you know, if you look at the people I took advice from, I mean, the turning point for me was reading this article in the paper with the kid that was the #1 kid in our area at the time, explaining how he approached the sport of wrestling. And I said, I'm going to listen to this kid. I listened to him. I listened to like coaches I respected, but I think that stuck with me in life. Learn from the best and ignore all the rest. I mean, you're as a kid and as an adult, you just get hit with so much advice in life about how to pursue things, and you're getting hit with advice from people that oftentimes haven't done what you want to do. So,
right,
you know, that stuck with me. Is you know, learn from people that really know what they're doing. Like search for that person in whatever field it is you're trying to conquer, and find that person and learn from them. You know, I learned that from wrestling. I learned to, you know, don't waste time. Like I said, when I was in practice and before, you're screwing around and playing games and having fun. And then my mindset switched to, look, I'm only here 3 hours a day. In high school, you know, the season's only 3 or 4 months. Like, don't waste any time. Go 100% in every moment and rest when you're done. That works, you know, for everything too, because when you're trying to level up quickly in whatever it is, you know, that attitude works too. When you combine seeking out the best advice and then applying it aggressively, and you tend to change quickly. And then the other thing that occurred to me, like during wrestling too, is like, it seems obvious now, but you gotta expect to win at things. It seems obvious now, but there wasn't a wrestling match in my entire career where I was thinking I was gonna lose, or where I was nervous and I ended up like winning. That never happened. I was never like, oh my God, I can't believe I won that. It just never happened. I had matches where I expected to win that I lost. I lost one match that I expected to win. But that's not so bad.
Right. Your friends must have noticed a drastic change, because all of a sudden you're going into matches where you're going to get pinned in the first period, no big deal. It doesn't seem to bother you. You're kind of going along with the motions, and now you're a man possessed. Did anyone say to you, dude, what the hell happened to you?
Oh, they just thought it was funny because, I hung out with, it's fun. I went to a, my mom made me go to private school. I didn't want to go there. And I got lucky because the private school wanted to win at sports. They wanted to win at football in particular. So they would give scholarships, and they would bring in all these kids from the inner city to play football. And I couldn't get along with the traditional private school kids at all. I ended up hanging out with all these like inner city football players, and they were all, I was tiny. I wrestled 132 pounds. These guys were all 220 pounds, football studs. Some of them went on to play pro football and stuff like that. And they remember seeing me the first day of high school, and I gravitated to them right away. But they were like, we remember looking at you and thinking, this kid's the biggest dork we ever saw. Like, why does he want to be our friend? He just looks like such a dork. I had a terrible haircut, and I had no muscle, and I had this little pop belly, and it was horrible. It was horrible. But I don't know. They ended up liking me because we got along. We're all friends to this day. But they thought it was the funniest thing ever.
And then, next thing you know, you're making things happen, and now you're in the trenches at Sticker Mule. How long has Sticker Mule been going for?
We're coming up on our 10th anniversary, so that's
10th
amazing.
Anniversary, wow!
Yeah.
So I read that when you founded the company, co-founded the company, you were with your partner and in front of a lawyer, and they're like, what do you want to sell? They're like, well, we don't know.
Yeah.
Is that
my co-founder is an amazing guy, and he doesn't have a background in athletics, but he's got a very similar mindset. Like, he was 70 years old at the time we started it. He got through his whole career without ever using a computer, and he got one for the very first time just before Christmas 2009 because he loved betting horses, and he heard that you could do it on the internet more easily. And so he was asking for help using the computer and learning the internet, and I just started BSing about starting a company, and he said, well, what would we even do? I said, well, manufacture stuff, and I showed him a few websites, and he come and saw me the next day, and I shouldn't say this, but he specifically come and saw me the next day, and he said, Anthony, he said, I thought about what you said last night while drinking a bottle of vodka, and I wrote a bunch of notes and decided we should start a company together. And that's his style, and was his style. He backed up, but anyways, I said, I had some self-doubt, and he said, and I said, what makes you think we could do this? And he said, you got a personality, you don't fail at anything. I don't like to fail at anything. He said, I never even saw the internet before, but I'm not going to fail at this, and you aren't either. So let's get going. So he said, I want you to decide today if you want to do it. And so I said,
how did you meet this character before this?
He was actually my high school tutor, my high school math tutor. I was a bad student. He was a friend of the family, and he's a math genius. And he dragged me through high school mathematics, which was one of the only classes I did good in. But I had a tutor the whole time. I never told anyone. So I got to know him through that, and we become friends. And we stay friends. We're probably the best of friends. But even though we're an odd couple, he's 80 now, and I'm 37 now.
And so, yourself before this, after college up to 2009, how did you get involved with manufacturing and production and that kind of thing?
Yeah, I mean, I'm from a small town, and like I liked manufacturing. I worked in manufacturing in college, and it's good to work different jobs. I worked. My first job was as a dishwasher, then I worked in manufacturing, and then I worked in I thought, you read these books about real estate and stuff like that. I thought I wanted to do that, and I had I begged this company to like let me do an internship at a real estate company, and it was office work, and I hated it. It was like it was the most torturous thing ever. And after that experience, I just said to myself, like, I didn't want to be in an office job. I wanted to be working in manufacturing. So, I went right into manufacturing right after college. It was the thing I enjoyed the most. And I think I love manufacturing because when I started, I said like I don't know, the people are just fun, easy people. I mean, it was an easy transition for me. It's just a fun environment, and it's a no nonsense environment. It's a very welcoming environment. I mean, as long as you show up to work every day, almost anyone can work in manufacturing. You get such a wide range of personalities, and I had a blast. I love the people, and that's where I wanted to be. So, I went there straight away, and it worked out well for me. I mean, I like that environment. The people like me, I got along, and I got along with everyone. And I don't know. I ended up.
When did you take it from that though to being in that environment and enjoying it to being kind of a student of it? Because I've heard you've kind of read and written papers on different principles of manufacturing. And did you just kind of apply that same principle of wrestling to that?
I learned from the best, right? So
Yeah.
when I was in college, I had this. There was only one professor I really liked in college, and he was a guy that was also he had a great career, military career. He had an amazing business career. He's a vice president of a company called Raytheon, which is a massive company and manufacturing company. And he said like whatever you pursue in life, he liked to simplify it to just basic principles that you could work off of. So he had principles of he gave me a document. He said these are my principles of how I approach teaching. And that stuck with me as well, like the idea of like making principles. So, as I started growing the company, I didn't like the idea of just constantly having to make decisions without knowing like what my basis was for making decisions. And as the company grew, I had to pass on my systems for doing things onto other people. So for every area of the company, I just started saying like, this is my approach to how I do it. I wish I did that when I was wrestling, but you can say there's principles, athletics, like how do what are the 8 to 10 rules you're going to follow to succeed at whatever it is you're doing. So I wrote that for everything, marketing, manufacturing, like even, I have principles for how we do copywriting at Sticker Mill, but I like to have a system for how we do things because it just works and things that ring true to me, and I edit them over time, but I think,
I was actually on my sticky note here. There's a couple subjects I always write down. One of them for our conversation was principles. And so I've heard you talk a lot about that, and I have them up on my board there too. Like it simplifies things because, if decisions conflict with those, obviously you're going to toss it out. So what are some of the principles you've used to help grow Sticker Mule to what the company it is now?
I think the favorite ones move quickly. I mean, number one's move quickly. Like I said, I got that from my co-founder. He moved quickly starting the company. I also got it from wrestling. You don't waste time in your season. The other one I think is like I got from wrestling, learn like what's your yardstick or what's your metric for success, and that goes back to just seeing kids that, like I said, if you just want to be the captain of your team, that's all you're going to be. And in business, there's a lot of people, and there's nothing wrong. I mean, you got to decide what makes you happy because you can stress yourself out going crazy. But there's a lot of people in business that just want to be like a small successful business, or they want to be the richest person in their small town.
Yep.
And I'm from a small town. Like if I wanted to be just the most successful person in my town, like I probably did that a few years ago. But you got to think like, well, what's your goal? And so like, wrestlers that like you see wrestlers like I want to be in the Olympics, I want to be the best wrestler all the time. I thought about business the same way. I mean, I don't know if I want to be the greatest in the history of business, but I looked at it and said, well, who's the best at business? Like I think you could argue probably Amazon is amazing. I mean, Jeff Bezos is amazing.
Zappos.
Businessman. I don't agree with the philosophy and endless growth. I don't agree with his philosophy towards business, but just thinking about that and saying like, what's it mean to really be the best? I want to be the best at whatever I do in my own way. And having that attitude helped me, because if not, it would have been, you get satisfied early. Somebody said, what was it? Tyson Fury said after he won, so he said, stay stay humble, stay hungry. You know, it makes you got to be that. Like if you're not hungry, like you're not gonna want to keep growing, and at a certain point, you know, you got to calm down. But yeah, you gotta have that desire to be the best, and you gotta understand what it means to be the best. If you just say, "Geez, I made money, I built a company, and I won. It's over," you know. It's sort of like saying, "Well, I became captain of my wrestling team. It's over. I'm an amazing wrestler." No, it's not true.
Yeah, it's never ending. And when you look at how you structure your day, week, and year, are you a big planner? Like, do you plan every Sunday for the week? And what does that look? How do you organize things?
I don't plan at all. I'm not a planner at all. I take every day as it comes. I take every day as it comes. I move quickly when opportunities present themselves. But you know, I try not to drive myself crazy. I mean, you can get crazy doing a lot of things that don't matter, and I try to keep myself calm and do things that make sense. And I don't believe in busy work and stuff like that. I believe in doing things that are impactful. I think the same's true, and you could probably say that comes from wrestling too, because I don't know, there's probably mixed opinions on this, but there's a lot of, like, one thing that I changed in my wrestling towards the end was I stopped running as much as I used to. Like, you know, I used to run tremendously, and that's not making you a better wrestler. Just, you know, I don't think it is. I mean, it didn't work for me. It was just busy work in a way. I mean,
I would
you need
agree
to run,
100%.
like, not 10 miles a day. It's just busy work, and people do a lot of busy work in business too. And to get good at wrestling, I said, well, what are things I really need to do to get good at wrestling, and what are things I really need to do to get good at to make the company grow.
And so what does that look like for you now? Is it focusing on efficiencies in the plants? Is it marketing, the customer experience? I mean, what are some of the things you really think move the needle for Sticker Mule?
You know, it's interesting. We were talking about, I started boxing recently again, and I use the same process I used to improve Sticker Mule to figure out how to box. And that was basically to say, like, I think, like, what's the biggest problem I'm facing? I list out my biggest problems, and I solve the biggest problems first. And, like, as you solve big problems, like, you know, new problems. As you solve big problems, the company grows and new problems present themselves. But you got to solve your biggest challenges first. So, I mean, if you look at boxing, for example, when I started boxing as a 36-year-old, out of shape CEO, like with a belly and everything. And I said, like, one of the first things I need to resolve is endurance. I need to get my endurance back, because if I'm tired, I can't train that much. So, like, that's my biggest problem right now. This needs to get solved. I need endurance. And I hated running. I hated cardio. But once I realized, like, this is my biggest problem, solve the cardio. Once that's solved, you can spend more time working on technique. You know, I thought of boxing that way. And once I started getting into it, I started, as I was fighting, noticing different muscle groups fail. Right, like, I didn't even realize, like, my feet were burning. And so I started, you know, you start doing jumper, you resolve these problems, like, so that they don't exist anymore. So, you know, you do jump rope, you do stuff so, like, your feet don't burn anymore, so you can stay in the fight, and that problem's going on. And then you notice, geez, now that your feet aren't burning, your shoulders are burning, and so you got to resolve that. And then, you know, geez, maybe my legs aren't as conditioned as they need to be. So then you resolve that, and then once you knock out all these big problems, you keep leveling up as a fighter, and you know, you think, like, well, geez, maybe now I need to learn some technique, and you got to think, like, what's the biggest challenge facing you? And I think, yeah, probably top wrestlers are thinking the same thing. Like, what is it that's holding me back as a wrestler right now? I mean, I've conquered this, and this. Like, what is the part of my game that's lacking? And you know, business is 100% the same.
So you focus on the biggest challenges ahead of you, and if you can, it's kind of that principle by Gary Keller, the one thing. Like, what's the one thing you can do that will make the rest of the choices meaningless or insignificant, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And if you can take care of that, the rest will follow. Have you, you talk about learning from the best, and now that you're saying it, it really makes a lot more sense why you base your HR principles off of Google, right? Or, like,
yeah, exactly.
It's like the same thing. Like, why would you go to the best, do what they do? Speaking of, you know, manufacturing, have you ever taken a deep dive at the Toyota production system, and kind of how that got started?
You know, I know all that stuff. I know a lot of that stuff. I'm weird in this regard. I like a lot of stuff, but some of the stuff gets over exaggerated. I mean, I'm a big believer in, like, common sense principles and just doing what makes sense. And they're actually, I can't, you know, there's only one book in manufacturing. I can't even remember the name of it. I can send it to you afterwards. That's actually really good in my opinion. And it takes an objective view of all the different systems and says, like, what makes sense from a common sense
it's not
point
called,
of view.
hold on, what is that?
You would never find it because it's one of those, like, not popular books. But
okay.
I don't, manufacturing is weird. Like, I don't love most of the literature out there. I think most of it's not good. I'm lucky my co-founder was a big manufacturing guy, and I don't know, I figured things out as I went. That's one area, it's funny. I'm a big believer. I've handed off the work of the company to a lot of people, and I'm a big believer in like handing things off and putting people in the best places. And people give me a hard time. Like, I still run manufacturing, and people say why. And like, I try to be a humble person, but in this regard, like, I think I'm probably one of the best there is in this field. I don't know. I've been doing it. I'm 37 now. I've been doing it for 15 years, and I've done it well for 15 years, and I figured out a lot of stuff, and I've read most of the books, and
how many plants are you guys running right now?
More than people would guess. So 3.
3.
We got 2 in the United States, 2 in the United States, and one in Europe.
So what is something that comes up during the day in the life of running, 3 major plant operations in multiple continents that people would have no idea about? Like, what's something that come up in the past week or year even?
Running it's actually kind of, I could say this, it's funny. People say it's funny. I run 3 plants. Technically, all the plant managers report to me. I barely talk to these guys. I mean, they do such a good, these guys and girls, sorry, they do such a good job. Like, they barely bother me. And I think that's sort of interesting in a way. I mean, when I am in it, the thing that comes up, and I love it, is like, you get a lot of interpersonal situations that happen with people, and you got to be good at resolving them. That's probably the number one thing that people don't realize that people don't realize about manufacturing that can make you a great factory manager, is your ability to like empathize with people and help people resolve their problems. Because when I first started in manufacturing management, it was, I just couldn't believe how easy the job was. And like, the reason why it was like easy for me is, maybe I'm naturally an empathetic person. I mean, I liked the people I worked with, I cared about them, and I wanted to help them with whatever problems they had. And because of that, they thought I was like the best boss in the world, and and whatever I wanted, they just did, because they thought I was the nicest guy in the world. And I see all these other manufacturing managers that struggle because they're like, I'm the boss and you're the worker, and they have this adversarial attitude, and it's stupid. It doesn't work. If you take a caring approach towards the people in manufacturing, it's the easiest job in the world. Because I mean, unfortunately, they're so biased to thinking their bosses are going to be terrible that if you're thoughtful, they just love you. And so I think that's one of the keys why our factories run so well, is like, I have this approach. All of our managers have this approach, because, I don't let jerks work for us. And yeah, probably the most interesting thing that comes up is the interpersonal situations that happen in the factory, throughout the day. I mean, we had a guy once that, he violated, parole for traffic violation, and he got arrested, and they told me I sent a lawyer to his to the jail to help him out, and he couldn't believe it. I mean, but it didn't cost that much to do. I mean, I had a good friend of mine. They grabbed me a short while ago. And they said, your friend, he can't see, like he was going blind.
Okay. And
I went and saw him. I said, what's going on? And he's like, I can't see. And I said, like, well, what do you mean? What's happening? Yeah, he was going blind. He had diabetes, and he didn't know how to take care of it. And so I grabbed him and I took him to the doctor, and they gave him a plan, and then I grabbed books on how to manage diabetes, and specifically the diet for it. And I sat down with him and his wife and his kid, and I put a diet plan together for him. I said, you got to make sure he follows this, and he's been doing great. So I mean, stuff like that is probably the crazy stuff that happens in manufacturing that people don't realize.
But I love how you kind of simplify hundreds of books about servant leadership and all the other buzzwords. You just said, listen, it's basic. Like, it's empathy, it's showing people respect and do the right thing, and it's going to pay dividends. Like, you simplify a lot of that shit. And one of the stories that really resembles that, or kind of demonstrates that, was it this Christmas or last, when you gave your employees $1,000 check in one of the countries?
We just did that.
What happened there?
We had been We try to do something nice. We try to do something nice. We don't do management bonuses at Sticker Mule because it's a hard system to like manage and implement. You can screw up incentive structure. So I said, if I'm ever going to do a bonus, I'm just going to do uniform for everyone. I don't care if you're a factory worker or a software developer or a customer service person. Like, we're just going to do uniform bonuses. So we had done like smaller uniform bonuses in the past around Christmas, and we're coming up on our 10th anniversary. And we had a phenomenal year, and I was looking at the numbers, and I said, look, we got to do something really good for people this time. I think I'm just going to feel like a weirdo. And so I asked some people. I got a lot of friends in the factory that I go to for advice. I said, what do you guys think we should do? And they said $500. And I said, yeah, I think we'll do $1,000. And they were like, you're crazy. And I talked to some other people, and they said, you're crazy. I was like, $1,000 just sounds so good. You got to do $1,000. I mean, $500 is like cool, but $1,000 just sounds so cool. So, I said, let's do that. And then like my CFO actually said, she's like, why don't we do $1,000 after tax? Because that's even cooler. I mean, because it sucks, you get $1,000. You think you're getting $1,000, and then it turns to whatever, 700,
600, yeah.
Yeah. So she actually said, let's do $1,000 after tax. And so I said, yeah, let's do that. And, people just went crazy. And I wasn't going to say anything about it because we don't talk about ourselves much at all. I wasn't going to say anything about it. And somebody called me on a Saturday, and they said, people are so happy about this. We should put something out there and say we did it. And I just drafted a tweet. And he had, like my coworker helped me. Actually, the kid that got me into wrestling, his name was Chris Russo. He works for us now. He's our head of sales. And he called me on a Saturday, and he told me to put it out there. So we drafted a tweet, we put it out there, and it went viral. And then we emailed it, and it went super viral. We got 40,000 retweets, and we got 8 million people saw it. And it just went crazy. And I don't know, I felt a little weird about it because I didn't like the idea of taking advantage or saying bragging, but a friend of mine that's actually I got another cool friend. He's a pro MMA fighter, and he actually overcame leukemia as a child to become an MMA fighter.
Who is
and
he?
He's a wild story. He's retired, but his name's Tommy Marcelino. He's from my hometown, and
okay.
I know he does a lot for Make-A-Wish because they came and helped him out when he was a kid. And he said, I used to have this attitude too, that if you do something good, you got to do it in secret, because if you brag about it, it kind of diminishes it. And he's like, that's nonsense. He goes, if you don't do things in public, you can't inspire other people, and it's important to inspire other people. So, we put it out there, and our employees were happy. And I think the even cooler thing was 8 million people saw what we did. And right away, a few businesses wrote us and said, we did the same thing as you. In fact, one even publicly wrote on Twitter that they did the exact same thing as us because of us. And there was a lot of conversation in our local community about raising wages because of what we did and people. Yeah. So I think it was good.
Well, it's awesome because I come from a family where everyone except my brother and I are blue collar, right? Super blue collar. My grandpa was a welder at a Case IH factory. Horrendous working conditions his whole life, like 100. You know what I mean? So like that kind of shit goes a long way there. And we kind of in line with that is you have all these people who support you and trust you, and they do really good work. But one of the things I found was interesting about Sticker Mule is you don't put the word quality on your website. Why is that? That's
cool. You noticed that. I don't know. It's funny. It's cool. So it's like one of those things that should get taken for a given, that you do quality work. You should just, if you say you do it, it makes me wonder, is it really true? It's sort of like saying we're a good company. People, we're a good company. Are you really a good company?
Right.
You should just be a good company. You should just do quality work. So I don't like saying that. It should just be as a given. Like, people should see it by the way you behave, by the way you treat people, by how good the product actually is. And when people say you're a good company, it shouldn't be because you're doing, you're saying you're a good company. People should just know it.
I always felt that was weird when you see that on ingredients, like made with real ingredients. It's like, well, no shit. I would hope it's made with real ingredients. Yeah, right?
All natural. Like, what the hell is it otherwise?
Right. And so you've kind of taken that approach where you're humble in that sense, and it's some of the key differentiators for you folks, ironically, is the quality of the stickers. I ordered a couple hundred. The stickers are incredible quality. And then the service and support, that's a differentiator. And it seems to me like that's just something that's a given for you.
Yeah, we had to figure out how to conquer all these things. But like I said, it just goes back to like what I learned in wrestling is there's principles to how to do everything well, how to be a good wrestler, how to be a good whatever, how to do customer support well. And when you first start, you don't know them. And you got to look for people that do know them, steal it from them or learn it from them, adapt it to a way it makes sense for you, and then implement it. I got a comment. You said that as your uncle worked in a factory, it was 1,000,000 degrees,
Yep.
and right, and I lived that world too. I used to, like, the factory used to be, when I was a kid, I worked in a factory with 1,000,000 degrees, and in the summer particularly because of machines and all that, and sticker mill was an air conditioned factory, which is really cool.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, we had to be because of the machines need it, but I mean it's awesome that it is. So it's really cool.
I can imagine people appreciate that because my grandpa,
Oh yeah, it's
he would come home from work every day at 3:30. And my mom was a single mother, and so my grandmother watched us during the day because she was like, an old school homemaker. She never worked, but my grandpa would come home from work at 3:30 every day. And when you heard that door open, you knew he was going to be in such a shitty mood that you'd run to the basement. My brother and I would hide for like first 30 minutes. My grandma would hand him a beer. He'd go sit down, have a beer. Then like 30 minutes later, he would talk to you. But like, that's how miserable these factories are for people, right? So someone like you who's been there and has the empathy to say, hey, we're going to, air condition our factories. We're going to give $1,000 bonus. Like, you just kind of you forget that those things are even a reality for some people who work.
Oh yeah.
Like,
people don't know.
We got it good.
Most manufacturing, you're living in it's probably 100 degrees in the factory some days, 110. Yeah. The machines throwing heat and everything else, and it's the greenhouse effect from the sun beating down on the building. And I mean, when I was younger, it was maybe, and I was still my wrestling, thinking about wrestling. Oh wow, I just probably lost 7 pounds. I was like excited. But yeah, no, you don't want to live that world.
So what is, I know we have to wind down here. What is next for Sticker Mule in terms of 2020 and beyond? Like, where do you see the company headed?
Yeah. When we first started, I said, we want to be fast, simple, and fun. I think like right now we're mostly focused on the fun part. We did really well in the other two and are mostly focused on the fun part. And one thing I said to myself lately, and I've been telling other people, is like, when you hit a certain level of success in business, especially if you're privately owned, we have no investors. We're not a public company. No one can say you need to grow to get me a return on my money. Like I'm the sole owner of the company. And when you're in that situation, you get yourself financially comfortable. It's crazy to just keep chasing money. So at a certain point, you got to chase fun. You got to chase doing interesting things in the world. And I think our attitude right now is we're going to keep doing great stuff. We're going to keep making the company better, but we want to use what we did to have more fun, inject more fun into the world. And
how does that take shape though? First of all, I love the fact that I worked for a number of publicly traded companies. I'm in outside sales. Every quarter, it's like 30% growth, 30% growth. I'm like, why do we always have to grow? It's like, but for them, it's obviously because it's Wall Street and
they need to.
Yeah, need to, right? So I get that, but I love that you kind of have this mindset of, hey, we don't necessarily need to do that just for the sake of growing. If there's something behind it, yeah, but if it's just grow to grow, not always the best approach. So what are some things you guys do in terms of injecting fun? Do you do retreats with the guys and girls or?
We do. I mean, inside the company, we've always had fun.
Right.
I want to just do our part to make the world a more fun and exciting place and make people feel enthusiastic and like let them know that, they can do cool things too. So if you look at like what we're doing recently, I mean, the $1,000 bonus thing was big. Putting that out into the world was a good lesson for us. That getting it out to 8 million people seeing it was a good lesson for us. That was a positive way to change the world. If you look at us on social, like on Twitter right now, we're actually one of, I think, the most popular brands on Twitter. And that came out of nowhere just from us like leveling up there and trying to inject more enthusiasm into the world there. And if you look at like some
people
of the stuff.
People are so fucking serious. Like, it's nice to see you guys joking around once in a while. It's like, we don't have to talk in this rigid business format, We can be people.
Everyone's so serious. And if you look at, people don't realize, like, we do all these, we've been doing a lot of funny videos. And they're all done in-house. They're all done by a team from my small town. The star of our video is my friend Vinny. Vinny's been my friend since I was he's my babysitter when I was 6 years old, and now he works for us, and he was head of maintenance. But he's the star of our videos, and he does all these hysterical things, and people love him. And it's just to say to the world, like, look, you don't need to take yourself so seriously. Like, it's not that hard. I mean, it's not that hard to be successful. Like, a lot of the things that are impeding people from being successful, they overcomplicate it. And honestly, I think because I didn't come from the world of, I don't know how to put it, like, I didn't come from the world of investment money and venture capital and all that stuff, where I think those people are trying to intimidate outsiders that they can't do it. And, we want to do the opposite. Show people, like, look, this wasn't that hard. I'm from a small town in upstate New York. I got a manufacturing background, and I hired all local, I hired a remote team, but I hired all normal people. Right. We don't have people with fancy degrees at Sticker Mule. The people that run the company have been with us from day one. Our Our head of HR was our first employee. He started doing customer service. Our CFO started as a factory worker, not with us, but with another company, but she started as a factory worker. In fact, our VP of software was a factory worker before learning to become a programmer in his spare time. Our factory manager, one of them, started in customer service, and she's now the factory manager of one factory. The other one is a Jamaican immigrant that come to the United States when he was 16 years old and rose through the ranks at Taco Bell and then joined us and became our factory manager. So, the star of our videos is an Italian immigrant that worked in maintenance and used to be my babysitter. So, I think like this is what we want to do. Like, show the world that, you can have fun and be successful at the same time, and success isn't as hard as people make it out to be. Like, common sense principles work.
Simplicity is one thing I've taken away from this, even for running my podcast here. Keep things simple. You don't take yourself too seriously. Last thing I'll say is, how can, people can go to stickermeal.com, for whatever, any, sticker needs, magnet needs, that kind of thing. But any, I guess, parting thoughts for potential customers out there, what services you provide, where they can find you, that type of thing. Any offers going on right now?
We run deals all the time. I would actually say follow us on Twitter, Stickermill at Stickermill. You can get the best sense for our personality and have the most fun. And even if you don't want to buy from us, like, you can follow us and have fun and like see our enthusiasm, enjoy our enthusiasm there. And if you do want to buy, like, hop on the website, and we got a number of awesome products that are really easy to buy, and they'll make you happy and hopefully your friends too.
60 seconds, people. I'm telling you, I was stressing about a sticker order because I've had one go bad. I went on there, uploaded my logo, 60 seconds, it's done.
Yeah.
Unbelievable quality. I'll never go anywhere else for anything related to this,
well,
brother.
It was awesome you did it. It was awesome you tweeted it, and that's what ended up. Like I said, I don't think there could have been a better podcast for me to be on to tell my story, because like wrestling was the turning point in my life. And I don't usually do podcasts, but I saw this one. I was like, I gotta talk to this guy.
Well, I'm honored, my friend. Thank you so much for your time today.
You got so many amazing people. I don't even know. I was intimidated, coming on. I mean, you got so many amazing people. I don't know how I stack up, but hopefully, some of the kids listening enjoy it.
I hope so too, man. And I think, for any kids out there, I was never a world beater wrestler. I was okay. But, knowing that there's a lot of listeners out there who are not going to be the Jordan Burroughs of the world, and, they have a good wrestling background. I mean, are you guys hiring? If there's any young kids listening or getting ready to come out of their senior year of college, like, what does that look like if they wanted to work for you?
We're constantly hiring. I mean, the positions change, but you can go on our website, stickmill.com/careers, and see what's available. The positions are constantly changing.
Sweet.
We're constantly hiring.
Cool, man.
Yeah.
Well, again, thank you for your time, brother. I look forward to getting this out to the masses. Have a great day, sir.
Thank you. This is amazing.
And all great things must come to an end. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe, give us a review, give us a rating, and share this with your friends. It would mean the world to us. Thanks for listening to Wrestling Changed My Life. 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 Listening to Wrestling Changed My Life.